Part 1. My boyfriend called me ugly in front of his friends and dumped me at a restaurant, leaving me to pay for dinner. As he walked away, he loudly said, "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you." I smiled and calmly waited. This morning, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls. You guys, I'm still processing what happened last weekend. Like, I keep replaying it in my head, wondering if I somehow imagined the whole thing. But nope. My maxed out credit card and the ice cream stains on my couch confirm it was very real. For context, I had been with Ryan for 2 years. Not some casual fling. 2 years. We had the whole routine down. Netflix marathons on Sundays, awkward holiday dinners with both families, even that weird couples yoga class he insisted on trying, which we both sucked at, TBH. Things weren't perfect between us. Are they ever? But I thought we were solid. We had talked about maybe moving in together this summer. He had these little, annoying habits, leaving his socks literally everywhere, texting during movies, and making these helpful comments about my appearance. Stuff like, "That shirt makes your arms look bigger. Have you thought about trying a different hairstyle?" I always brushed it off as him being honest. Past me was such an idiot. So last Friday, Ryan texted me about dinner with some work friends. He'd never really included me in his work life before, always saying it wasn't professional or whatever, so I was actually excited. I even went shopping for a new outfit, RIP my budget, and spent forever getting ready. Full YouTube makeup tutorial, the fancy straightener I only use for special occasions, the works. I get to this super expensive restaurant downtown, the kind with tiny portions and no prices on the menu, red flag number 1. Ryan's already there with 2 guys he works with, Leonard and Pablo. The moment I walk up, there's this weird vibe. Ryan barely acknowledges me, just a half stand from his chair and a quick, "You're late." I was literally 2 minutes late because parking was impossible. I sit down and he looks at my outfit and goes, "Oh, you wore that?" Not quietly either. His friends exchange a look and I immediately feel my face getting hot. For the record, I was wearing a dark blue dress that I thought looked nice, nothing crazy or inappropriate. I try to laugh it off. "Is there a dress code I missed?" But he just shrugs and says, "They already ordered appetizers." Cool. The next hour is basically Ryan talking about work stuff I don't understand while his friends nod along. Whenever I try to join the conversation, Ryan either talks over me or explains why I'm wrong. At one point, I mentioned something about a customer at my store, and Ryan interrupts with, "She doesn't really get how things work in the real business world," with this dismissive wave, like retail isn't a real job. I've been a manager for 3 years. I'm sitting there, getting more uncomfortable, wondering if Ryan's always been this condescending, and I just never noticed, or if he's showing off for his friends. Either way, not a great look. Then Leonard asks how we met, and I start telling the story. How his coworker Vanessa, my best friend, introduced us. Ryan cuts me off mid-sentence and says, "Yeah, Vanessa felt bad for her. I was doing a favor, really." Then he laughs. You guys, my stomach literally dropped. That's not even close to how it happened. Vanessa had actually warned me about Ryan's ego before setting us up, but said he was a good guy underneath it all. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. I excuse myself to the bathroom, mostly so I don't cry in front of them. I'm texting Vanessa like, "WTF is happening?" When I get a notification, Ryan just tagged himself at the restaurant on Instagram with Boys Night Out. Like I'm not even there. Vanessa calls me immediately, but I send her to voicemail because I don't want the guys to hear me crying. I splash water on my face, fix my makeup, and give myself this sad little pep talk in the mirror about getting through dinner with dignity. When I get back to the table, they're all laughing about something, but stop abruptly when I sit down. Awesome. The waiter brings our main courses, and Ryan keeps making these jokes about my food choice. I ordered pasta, one of the less expensive options because I was already worried about the bill, and he says stuff like, "Carb loading for a marathon?" That's a bold choice for someone with your body type. Each comment feels like a little paper cut, and they're adding up fast. At this point, I'm barely eating, just pushing food around my plate and counting the minutes until I can leave. Then Pablo asks Ryan about some presentation, and Ryan launches into this whole story about how his boss loved his ideas, and he's basically running the whole project now. Something clicks in my brain. The week before, Ryan had been stressing about this same presentation, saying his portion was only 5 minutes, and he was nervous. Now suddenly, he's the star? It's like he's living in some alternate universe where he's the main character. Then the bill comes. The waiter sets it on the table, and Ryan picks it up, looks at it for a second, then slides it over to me. I think he's just showing me the total, but then he says, and I will never forget this, "You know what? I don't think this is working." I stare at him, waiting for the punchline. There isn't one. "I've been trying to make this work, but I'm just not attracted to you anymore. I think we should break up." In the middle of a restaurant. In front of his friends. After 2 years together. Who does that? I'm completely blindsided. Are you serious right now? This is how you want to do this? He stands up, grabs his jacket, and says, "I still get a knot in my stomach thinking about it. A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long. You're not exactly a prize." Then he and his friends just left. They all walked out together, laughing, leaving me sitting there with a $347 bill for all their stupid Wagyu appetizers and fancy cocktails. The waiter came over with this look of pity that made everything 1,000 times worse. I paid the bill with my credit card, which I'm still paying off from Christmas, yay, and somehow made it to my car without completely falling apart. I called Vanessa from the parking lot, sobbing so hard she couldn't understand me at first. She came straight to my apartment with a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine. The real MVP. Between ugly crying and stress-eating cookie dough, I told her everything. She was livid. Like, I had to talk her out of driving to Ryan's place and causing a scene. That's when she got weird. She kept asking questions about what Ryan had said about work, the project he mentioned, his role in the company. Finally, she was like, "Sabrina, I don't know how to tell you this, but Ryan isn't who he says he is at work." Turns out, Ryan isn't some hotshot marketing guy about to get promoted. He's an assistant who makes coffee runs and schedules meetings. All those business trips? Complete fabrications. The big presentation? He was just doing the slides. The actual team presented. The fancy title on his LinkedIn? Total fiction. I felt like such an idiot. For 2 years, this guy had been lying about basically everything, and I never questioned it. What else had he been lying about? That night, after Vanessa left, I went into full detective mode. I scrolled back through our text history, our photos, everything. So many inconsistencies I'd missed. Comments about money that didn't add up. Times he had to work late, but his location showed him across town. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in the restaurant. How small he made me feel. How humiliated I was. At like 3 a.m., I get a text from a number I don't recognize. "Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's some stuff you should know." That's when things got really interesting. Part 2. Update. First update, thank you all so much for the supportive comments on my last post. Ryan nearly dropped his fork and mumbled something about it not being the right time to discuss it. His grandma, zero filter, remember, cut in with, "So, are you two moving in together or what? Because Ryan said you were looking at apartments together." Again, news to me. The furthest we'd gotten in that conversation was me once saying maybe we should think about combining our Netflix accounts to save money. Ryan tried steering the conversation back to himself, talking about how his boss had given him a company card for business expenses. I couldn't help myself. I asked, "What kind of expenses are you authorized to approve?" He stammered something about client dinners and team outings. That's when I casually mentioned, "Oh, speaking of dinners, Ryan took me to this amazing restaurant last week." "What was it called again, honey?" "The one where you met up with Leonard and Pablo?" The color drained from his face faster than my phone battery on TikTok. Seriously, my phone can't handle more than 20 minutes of scrolling before dying. "Anyone else?" Before he could respond, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Tina went to answer it, and I heard her delighted, "Oh, Cody, what a surprise!" Ryan looked like he might actually pass out. Cody walked in with a folder, all professional in his button-up shirt, apologized for interrupting the birthday dinner, but said he had some work documents Ryan needed to sign urgently for Monday morning. Tina, being the perfect host, immediately invited him to join us for cake later. Ryan tried to usher Cody toward the front door, but Ralph insisted they could handle work stuff right there at the table since we're all family here. Cody sat down in the empty chair beside me, which I'd strategically saved NGL. Ryan was gripping his fork so hard I thought it might bend. That's when Ralph asked Cody how the big presentation went, the one Ryan had apparently been leading. Cody looked confused for a second before catching on. He glanced at me, then at Ryan, and I could see him making a decision. Cody said the presentation went well, but clarified that their boss had delivered it, with Ryan and the team providing support. Ralph looked confused and said that wasn't how Ryan had described it. I jumped in, because I'm messy like that, and asked Cody about Ryan's promotion. Poor Cody looked so uncomfortable, caught between loyalty to a coworker and not wanting to lie to an entire family. He fidgeted with his napkin and said something vague about company restructuring. Ryan interrupted with this fake laugh and tried changing the subject to sports, or whatever, but his sister wasn't having it. She asked Cody point blank, "What's Ryan's current title?" The silence that followed was like that moment when you drop something in a public bathroom. Everyone hears it. No one wants to acknowledge it. Cody looked at Ryan, who was silently pleading with his eyes, then at me. I nodded slightly. He cleared his throat and said, "Ryan's an administrative assistant in the marketing department." The silence. Ralph put down his fork slowly. His grandma made this little humph sound. Kayla muttered something that sounded suspiciously like "I knew it." Ryan immediately went into damage control mode, saying Cody was confused, that he had multiple roles, that it was complicated. But the dam had broken. His family started asking specific questions that he couldn't weasel out of. When did you get promoted? He hadn't. Why did you say you had a team? He didn't. What about that corner office you mentioned? Also fictional. With each question, Ryan's stories unraveled more. He kept looking at me like this was somehow my fault, which made me more determined to let everything come out. Tina, bless her heart, tried to smooth things over. She suggested we all have some cake and talk about happier things. As she went to the kitchen to get it, Kayla asked me directly about the restaurant I'd mentioned earlier. This was my moment. I took a deep breath and told them everything. How Ryan had invited me to meet his friends. How he'd belittled me throughout dinner. How he dumped me in front of everyone and walked out, leaving me with a $347 bill I could barely afford. Ryan tried interrupting several times, but his dad shut him down with a look I'd never seen before. Pure disappointment. Ryan's defense? That I was exaggerating and playing victim. That I had embarrassed him in front of his colleagues by not fitting in. That leaving me with the bill was teaching me financial responsibility. His grandma actually snorted at that last one. Cody, who had been quiet through most of this, finally spoke up. He confirmed my story, adding that he'd heard Ryan bragging to coworkers about how he'd put me in my place. He even pulled out his phone and showed texts from Pablo. Receipts, y'all. Tina came back in with the cake just as Ryan was trying to paint himself as the victim. She set it down and asked what she'd missed. No one spoke for a moment. Then Ryan's dad said, very quietly, "We need to have a family discussion about honesty." Ryan exploded, like full-on temper tantrum. He accused me of turning his family against him, called Cody a traitor, said everyone was just jealous of his success. What success? He knocked over his water glass, pointed at me, and yelled, "A girl like you should be grateful I even bothered with you." His mom gasped. His grandma said something that I'm pretty sure was old people swearing. His sister just shook her head like she wasn't even surprised. I stayed calm, somehow, and said, "The only thing I'm grateful for is finally seeing who you really are." Ryan stormed out, slamming the door so hard that one of Tina's decorative plates fell off the wall and cracked. The aftermath was weirdly peaceful. Tina apologized to me like 50 times. Ralph looked tired and sad. Kayla helped clean up the spilled water. Cody apologized for his part in the awkwardness, but said he couldn't stand by while Ryan lied to everyone. Then the strangest thing happened. Instead of asking me to leave, they insisted I stay for cake. We all sat there, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, his coworker, and his family, eating birthday cake without the birthday boy. In any other situation, it would have been the most awkward thing ever. But somehow, it wasn't. After cake, I helped Tina clean up in the kitchen. She kept apologizing and saying she had no idea Ryan had been lying about so much. She seemed genuinely heartbroken, not just about what he'd done to me, but about who her son had become. I felt bad for her, TBH. No parent wants to realize their kid is, well, kind of terrible. She asked me quietly if there had been signs before, and I admitted that, looking back, there were red flags I'd ignored because I wanted to believe the best about him. When I was getting ready to leave, Ryan's dad pulled me aside. He thanked me for my honesty and apologized for what his son had done. He seemed so defeated, like he was trying to figure out where they'd gone wrong in raising him. I assured him it wasn't their fault. Ryan had made his own choices. Cody offered to walk me to my car, probably sensing I needed a moment to process everything. As we walked down the driveway, he mentioned that Ryan had been having problems at work for months, taking credit for other people's ideas, lying about his contributions, even faking emails from clients. He was actually on his final warning before potential termination. Suddenly, Ryan's desperate need to appear successful made a twisted kind of sense. His whole identity was built on this fake image of success and status. When I thought about it that way, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I thanked Cody for backing me up and drove home in a weird state of emotional exhaustion mixed with relief. Like when you finally take off an uncomfortable bra at the end of the day. Sorry for the weird analogy, but y'all know what I mean. When I got home, I had 3 missed calls from Vanessa, wanting updates. A text from Ryan, "You've ruined everything. This isn't over." I didn't respond, just blocked his number and made myself some tea. I should have been scared or upset, but honestly, I just felt tired and maybe a little proud of myself for standing up to him. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. But this morning my phone blew up with 13 missed calls from Ryan's mom, his sister, Cody, and several numbers I didn't recognize. Something had happened overnight, and based on the increasingly frantic voicemails, Ryan had completely lost it. Final update. I'm finally ready to explain about those 13 missed calls. Thanks for being patient while I processed everything that happened. Also sorry for the delay. My laptop decided to do a surprise 4-hour update right when I sat down to write this. Where were we? I woke up Sunday morning, after the birthday dinner disaster, to find my phone blowing up with calls from Ryan's family and Cody. At first, I legit thought someone had died or something. My stomach did that awful dropping thing as I scrolled through the notifications. 5 missed calls from Tina, 3 from Kayla, 2 from Cody, 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. I called Tina back first because she seemed the most worried based on her voicemails, which were just variations of, "Sabrina, please call me as soon as you can." She picked up on the first ring, sounding exhausted. Apparently, after Ryan stormed out of the birthday dinner, he'd gone on a complete bender. He showed up at his ex-girlfriend's apartment at like 2 a.m., drunk and ranting about how I'd ruined his life. The ex, who I didn't even know existed, TBH, was understandably freaked out and called Kayla, who had to go pick him up. Spent the night sending unhinged messages to practically everyone we knew. Texted Cody, threatening to ruin him at work. Lol. Good luck with that when you're about to get fired. Posted a long, rambling Facebook status about how he was surrounded by snakes and people would regret betraying him. Most concerning? He'd posted my address in a private message to his friend Pablo, saying he was going to make me pay for humiliating him. Pablo, who apparently has some moral compass, immediately called Tina and forwarded the message, which is why she was trying so desperately to reach me. I was sitting on my couch, in my ratty old pajamas, hair still in yesterday's messy bun, trying to process all this information while Tina apologized approximately 50 times for her son's behavior. I should have been scared, I guess. But honestly, I just felt tired. Like when your phone is stuck at 1% battery for hours, just waiting for it to finally die so you can charge it and move on. Tina insisted on coming over just to make sure I was okay, which was super sweet, but also made me panic clean my apartment. Nothing motivates tidying up like knowing someone's mom is about to see your living space. Am I right? I was literally throwing dirty laundry into my closet and scrubbing dried toothpaste off the bathroom sink when my doorbell rang. It wasn't just Tina. Kayla was with her too. They brought coffee and those little pastries from the bakery near their house, which, not gonna lie, might be what I miss most about being with Ryan. We sat at my tiny kitchen table, with the wobbly leg that I've been meaning to fix for months, and they filled me in on the Ryan situation. According to Kayla, this wasn't the first time Ryan had lied about his life. In college, he'd told everyone he was on the baseball team, when he'd actually been cut during tryouts. He'd once claimed to be talking to a popular girl, who had no idea who he was. There was a whole pattern of him creating this fictional version of himself that was more successful, more popular, more everything. As they were talking, my phone kept buzzing with texts from friends who'd seen Ryan's social media meltdown. Vanessa was freaking out, wanting to come over with her boyfriend, who does kickboxing, just in case. She watches too many crime shows, I swear. My group chat was blowing up with confused messages about the dramatic subtweets Ryan was posting. That's when my doorbell rang again. I literally froze, one wondering if it was Ryan. Kayla peeked through the blinds and let out a long breath. It was Cody. Apparently, Ryan had been blowing up his phone all morning too, and Cody wanted to warn me in person since Ryan had mentioned paying me a visit. So there we all were. Me, Ryan's mom, his sister, and his coworker, sitting in my living room on a Sunday morning, trying to figure out what to do about this man-child throwing a tantrum because he got caught in his lies. If it wasn't so stressful, it would have been hilarious. Imagine explaining this situation to someone who wasn't there. Cody mentioned that their boss had already gotten wind of Ryan's social media tirade. Someone had screenshotted and forwarded it, so Monday at work was going to be interesting. Kayla was worried Ryan might do something stupid if he lost his job on top of everything else. That's when my doorbell rang again. This time, it was the building manager, looking super awkward. Apparently, Ryan had been downstairs making a scene in the lobby, demanding to be let up to my apartment. The manager had refused, bless him, and threatened to call the police, at which point Ryan had stormed off, but not before yelling that I was a lying bitch, loud enough for the entire first floor to hear. Tina looked devastated. She kept apologizing and saying she didn't know where they'd gone wrong with him. I felt terrible for her. Imagine realizing your adult son is basically a walking red flag. Kayla was more practical, suggesting I document everything just in case Ryan's behavior escalated. We were all sitting there trying to figure out what to do when my phone buzzed with a notification. Ryan had tagged me in an Instagram story. Against my better judgment, and everyone in the room telling me not to look, I opened it. It was a photo of me from early in our relationship, sleeping on his couch with my mouth open, captioned, "Miss Perfect who ruined my birthday isn't so perfect. A girl like you should be grateful anyone took pictures of you at all." Like, that was his big revenge? A slightly unflattering photo from 2 years ago? I actually laughed out loud, which wasn't the reaction Tina was expecting. But honestly, if that was the worst he could do, I was gonna be fine. Just as we were discussing next steps, there was a loud pounding on my door. We all jumped. Then we heard Ryan's voice, slurring slightly. "I know you're in there. Open the door." Cody immediately stood up like he was going to confront Ryan, which was sweet but unnecessary. I was already calling the building security guard, perks of a slightly more expensive apartment building. Ryan kept pounding and yelling, and I could hear my neighbor's door open as she came out to see what the commotion was about. By the time security arrived, Ryan had moved on to kicking the door. The security guard didn't mess around. He told Ryan to leave or he'd call the police. There was some back and forth that I couldn't quite make out, then silence. The guard knocked gently and let me know Ryan had left the building, but was still in the parking lot, possibly waiting. Tina was mortified. She insisted on going down to deal with her son herself, and honestly, I was happy to let her. She was so upset that Ralph, Ryan's dad, had to come pick them both up. The whole situation was just sad. After they left, Cody and I sat on my couch in stunned silence for a bit. He finally broke it by asking if I had any alcohol, which felt like the appropriate response to the morning we'd had. We split a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion, and this definitely counted. By the time Cody left, it was late afternoon, and I was emotionally exhausted. Vanessa came over and stayed the night, just in case Ryan decided to make a return appearance. He didn't, thankfully. We ordered pizza, watched bad reality TV, and tried to process the absolute soap opera my life had become. The aftermath. The next few weeks were, well, an adjustment. Ryan got fired from his job after failing to show up for 3 days and sending inappropriate emails to several coworkers. He moved back in with his parents, temporarily, which I only know because Kayla and I have kept in touch. She's actually pretty cool. We get coffee sometimes. He tried to contact me a few more times, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry to tearful to weirdly nostalgic. I saved them all, just in case, but never responded. He created a few fake Instagram accounts to message me, but they were so obviously him. Who else would write, "You're making a big mistake" with that spelling error? That I just blocked them instantly. The weirdest part? Running into him at Target about a month later. I was in the home section looking at shower curtains, and suddenly, there he was, holding a pack of socks and looking like he hadn't slept in days. We made eye contact, and for a second, I thought he might cause a scene. Instead, he just turned around and walked away, leaving his shopping basket right there in the aisle. That was 3 months ago now. Ryan eventually moved to his uncle's place in another state, according to Tina, who still sends me holiday cards, which is sweet but awkward. His social media has gone suspiciously quiet. Kayla thinks his parents finally cut him off financially until he gets therapy. As for me, I'm doing pretty good, actually. My apartment finally feels like mine again, now that I've rearranged the furniture and replaced the stuff that reminded me of Ryan. The strangest outcome of all this might be my unexpected friendship with Cody. We're not dating or anything, though Vanessa keeps trying to make that happen. But we grab lunch sometimes and text about stupid TikTok videos. It's nice having someone who witnessed the whole Ryan saga and understands why I now have trust issues the size of Texas. Looking back at everything, I'm not angry anymore. Well, not just angry. I'm also weirdly grateful. Not for dating Ryan, definitely not that, but for finding out who he really was before things went further. Imagine if I'd moved in with him. Shudder.